Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just did a couple of questions as we head into this weekend because there's a whole lot of them. Definitely didn't get all the ones I wanted to off my chest, but got a couple of them. Definitely feel relatively good about it, but let's get into a little bit of a weekend roundup and let's talk about a lot of the different updates from around the country, and let's talk about the first one here. It sounds like Carson Beck will officially be out for the CFP. Does not come as a surprise to me. It does not come as a surprise to really just about anyone. Is going to be Gunnar Stockton the rest of the way for Georgia, and comes down to everyone else stepping up. Comes down to everyone else in that building being able to play a little bit better football, including obviously Gunnar Stockton and those wide receivers. But overall, a huge loss for Georgia. Definitely sets their path in a weird position, no doubt about that. I still have them winning the title. I had them doing that without Carson Beck, so I feel very confident in this team even without Carson Beck. Definitely does add some questions. There's no doubt about that. But now we got some coaching carousel updates, and we'll start with Dave Clawson over there at Wake Forest. He has stepped down after 11 seasons as the head coach of the Demon Deacons. He is going to step away. He's going to be more in an advisory role going forward for the school. Definitely wants to be around the program, definitely wants to be around the school, but as he said it, he just said he doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have quite the passion that he once had. A lot of these changes are wearing on a lot of these older coaches, so not necessarily a huge surprise. He does leave with the best winning percentage of any head coach at Wake Forest since they joined the ACC. He was in the top 10 in 2021 and 2022. Really, really good coach. Did an incredible job while he was at Wake Forest. It will be Jake Dickert taking... Oh, excuse me, you got one more here. It will be Jake Dickert taking over for him from Washington State. Did a really, really good job this year, obviously, over there at Pullman, and has done a good job really throughout his time. A really, really incredible head coach, and definitely a guy that I feel like fits this position really well. I think he can do a great job with maybe some lesser recruits to a lot of the other people that will have around him, like Dave Clawson has done really, really well. But it'll be great to have Dave Clawson still in the building for him. Definitely will be a guy that he will bounce off of quite a bit, but I do really love this pick of Jake Dickert, and I think he's going to do a great job in this position. A couple other updates. Sacramento State has made their hire in Brennan Marion. This almost confirms that they have a lot more money than I was thinking they had. In that NIL pool that was reported to be $50 million, I can't say confidently that it is $50 million. I can say pretty confidently that that can be accessed. This is a very big time hire. This is a guy that you don't hire unless you're very confident in your financial standing. So this is a huge, huge hire, and definitely a guy that probably won't be there for too long. Very, very impressive coach, and definitely a guy that will continue to rise in this industry. Michael Vick, a very interesting update from this past week was Michael Vick has interviewed for the Norfolk State job. It would be very, very interesting to watch unfold. Definitely would be a little bit of that Deion style, will be different, no doubt about that, but definitely would be very interesting to watch unfold, and a very, very talented guy. Obviously would be an interesting experiment at the very least. And a couple other little things. Sam Houston State has hired Phil Longo as their new head coach. They just won a game last night. They have a new head coach today. And a couple other things. Indiana has a new OC coming over from the Atlanta Falcons, and Tony Sunseri will be with them throughout the rest of the playoff, but a little bit of a change coming up there at OC. Definitely something to watch there. Moving on to Diego Pavia. He has won his temporary injunction to grant him another season in college football in 2025, and a lot of people were very excited about this. But let's talk about it really quickly. His argument essentially was he was in the junior college in his very first year, went to New Mexico Military Institute before transferring to New Mexico State, and it put him in a position where he couldn't benefit off NIL. He couldn't benefit off a lot of those things. He claims that he can make over $1 million next year, which he absolutely can in NIL, and he feels that he deserves to return for another year. They have decided to agree with that. They feel like that is a fair argument, and I understand where he's coming from. I really do. I don't love this. I think it's a very, very bad idea. I think it sets a very bad precedent, and some of the coaches definitely do agree with me. Steve Sarkisian has come out. He was a JUCO player in his time for 2 years before going to BYU for 2 years. He says it's a really bad idea. How long are we going to let these kids stay at the JUCO level and then bounce up to FBS and have 4 more years to play? It is a dangerous precedent to set. A lot of other guys from the junior college ranks will be coming after the NCAA here pretty soon. If I had to imagine, this opened a can of worms that I'm not sure people wanted to be opened. I really like Diego Pavia. I will very much enjoy watching him in 2025, but you got to draw the line somewhere, and I don't think this is a great precedent to set. I think this is a very dangerous idea, but we'll see what happens after it. We'll see how many other guys come after the NCAA, how many other guys have this argument, and how many other guys get to stay for a little bit longer in the world of college football. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but Dallas Wilson, he has decided to leave his NLI from Oregon. He is making his way down to Gainesville, Florida. This was something we talked about on signing day, saying this definitely could be a possibility of him flipping to Florida before he signed with Oregon. Well, he did it after he signed with Oregon. So a little bit of a crazy roller coaster there, but he has officially changed his mind. A huge pickup for Billy Napier and DJ Lagway and all of the team down there. A big-time player that absolutely could be a factor pretty much day one. The number 4 wide receiver in this upcoming class. And Oregon, they got plenty of wide receivers. I don't think they're hurting too much from this one, but Florida badly needed this one and definitely a big-time pickup for them. And then we got to talk about this. This is obviously something that has gone around, kind of just the talking points as we head into this weekend, but Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers are getting a little bit of a rematch this upcoming weekend. They faced off in 2021 back in the Texas State title when they were both seniors. They were both on their way to Ohio State and Clemson respectively. Quinn Ewers up to Ohio State and then down to Texas after 1 year, but this is crazy. It was a really incredible game the first time I remember watching this one, and there's a little bit more overlap even beyond those two guys. R.J. Mickens, the very talented leader for that safety group at Clemson, he was on Quinn Ewers' team over there at South Lake Carroll. And then Michael Taft, the All-American safety for Texas, was Cade Klubnik's teammate and one of his best friends down there at Westlake. So a lot of craziness between these two teams, a lot of overlap between these two teams, and it'll be really interesting to see what that has, what effect that has, how these guys act pregame, and just how hard Michael Taft is willing to hit Cade Klubnik. I think it's pretty hard, if I had to imagine. If I know anything about Michael Taft, he does not take off for just about anyone in the entire country. So that'll be incredible to watch. That'll definitely be something that will be really, really cool, because these are two very, very talented quarterbacks. These are two guys that absolutely were all over the place during their high school career. They've obviously made it to the highest level of college football, and now they get to face off one more time. It'll be really, really cool. Quinn Ewers obviously wants to right that wrong back in the day, so he'll have a little bit extra motivation going into this one on Saturday. Notre Dame and Indiana, let's do a couple of injury updates here really quickly. For Indiana, Jameer Johnson is back in the lineup. A huge player in the back end of that defense, very badly needed him back in the fray. For Notre Dame, it sounds like Jeremiah Love and Howard Cross, they should be okay to go. They should be ready to roll. A couple other injuries here and there. Obviously, Benjamin Morrison is not a new one. That is definitely one that will have an effect on this game, but not one that is new to Notre Dame. But a lot of guys that seem to be relatively okay to go. Maybe Howard Cross will be a little bit one to watch, to be a little bit limited, but it sounds like Jeremiah Love will be more than fine after getting a little bit dinged up against USC. Penn State and SMU, nothing huge here, if I'm being honest. Nothing necessarily crazy. Earlier in the week, we made the mistake of saying Kevin Winston was a big player in this game. He's not playing in this game. He's been out for quite some time. Totally slipped my mind throughout all the craziness, but yes, he will not be in this game, and other than that, there's really nothing to really speak of here. Not a ton of big-time injuries. A couple of guys that have been out for quite some time for these two teams, but overall, pretty much healthy going into this one in State College. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but no Jay Haynes for Clemson. Sounds like Phil Maffa is a go, but will not be 100%. On the other side, for Texas, Quinn Ewers and Kelvin Banks are moving in the right direction. Sounds like they will be ready to go. Probably not fully 100% for either of those guys either. And then Isaiah Bond. It sounds like he is progressing. Probably will be relatively limited if he does go out there. I would be a little bit surprised if he is a big-time factor in this game. Definitely a huge loss for that team that Clemson really struggles with after the catch. That's your after the catch guy. So definitely a huge loss there, but they got a couple of guys in Silas Bolden and a couple other guys that could definitely step up big in this one. And then nothing huge here for Tennessee and Ohio State. A couple of wide receivers for Tennessee and Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, Brew McCoy that might not be 100% throughout this one, but a couple of different things to watch for in that respect. A couple of guys in the portal from that wide receiver group, a couple of nursing injuries, so something to watch definitely, but doesn't feel like there's anything that will outright keep anyone out of this game as of right now. And then we got to talk about it. We're moving on to the CFP. We are moving on to the final part of this season. There are 4 teams that are making their CFP debut. There are 6 teams that are looking for their very first win in the CFP. There are 2 teams that are going to get their first win no matter what. There are 2 teams in this upcoming weekend that will find their first win in the CFP, and it's going to be special. It's going to be really, really fun to watch this unfold. It's going to be weird. I cannot promise you that all of these games will be super close. I can't promise you that you will be overly happy with the format at the very end of this thing. I can promise you we'll have a lot of really cool moments. I can promise you we'll have a lot of great matchups, including this weekend and probably tonight if I had to imagine. I can promise you we'll have a lot of incredible things, and enjoy it all. Don't let all of this craziness around the sport with the transfer portal and NIL and a million different things that are wrong with the sport right now. What's right is what's going to happen between the white lines tonight and the next couple of days. It's going to be incredible to watch. If you're watching the NFL on Saturday, it better be on a side TV. Do not give them the respect that they very clearly want. We're taking Saturday back, especially in December. It is now ours. Make sure that you do that. But take it all in. It's going to be weird. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. We will be back here on Monday to break it all down. I can promise you that. But that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social pages for all the content and updates you could possibly need. We have great people covering every single sport you could want. So anything in the world of sports you need, come on over to GSMC and we have you totally covered. But thank you once again for tuning in. We will be back on Monday to talk about a bunch of craziness, I have to assume, in the portal and on the field this upcoming weekend, but we'll talk about it all on Monday. Enjoy everything this weekend, and I will see you then.